Sean Reagan out, Tyler Allen in, and that is the quarterback coaching situation at West Virginia. As news hit over the weekend that West Virginia quarterbacks coach Sean Reagan will be taking the offensive coordinating job at Troy, joining up once again with Gerad Parker. Good morning, everybody. Monday morning here on Between the Eers. I'm Skylar Callahan, and thought we would hit this week, start this week off with this news and what it means for West Virginia, what it means for Garrett Greene, Nico Marchiol, everyone involved in that quarterback room, and really, in the grand scheme of things, what it means for the team. So, Sean Reagan, what are my thoughts on Sean Reagan? Well, it's kind of a mixed feeling, to be honest with you, because he didn't really produce much in his first go-around as the quarterback's coach at WVU. That was from 2019 to 2021. And in that time, they had Austin Kendall, they had Jared Dagey, even Jack Allison there for a spell. But then again, it's like he didn't really have much to work with in the first place. So it was really kind of hard to gauge the job that Sean did in those first 3 years. In 22, they shift him to being in charge of the tight end group. And as you know, Graham Harrell comes in as full autonomy of the quarterback room, the passing game, the offense, and quite a disappointment in 22 with Graham Harrell at the helm and JT Daniels, former five-star quarterback, someone that he coached at USC. Things don't go well in 22. Harrell leaves for Purdue, opens up the quarterback job again. Neal says, "Hey, Sean, you're back to being at quarterbacks. We'll go hire Blaine Stewart to coach the tight ends." And 23 happens. Garrett Greene has a phenomenal season, phenomenal year. And part of me wants to give full credit to Sean Reagan. Part of me also wants to give very little credit to Sean Reagan. Because is this just Garrett Greene just being a flat-out baller? Because, I mean, we've seen in years past when Garrett had his opportunities that the kid had something. You knew he had something in him to be relatively good. You didn't know if he was going to be a special player or not, but you could see he had all the makings of being a pretty darn good football player at this level. So how much of what Garrett Greene did can we credit Sean Reagan from this past season? And I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think you can give full credit. I don't think you can give hardly any credit. I think anytime you're directly involved with somebody that makes that kind of a jump, you have to give some sort of credit. But what I will say is it's not anything that I would be concerned about if I were a Mountaineer fan. And that's not a slight to Sean at all. But when you have a kid like Garrett, I think more of what he did in 23, a lot of it was just him going out there and playing ball. I mean, you could still see that there was a very big difference in his passing game, and the things that he needs to take strides in. Like there's footwork that needs to be improved. There's decision making that has to be improved. There is touch that has to be improved. There's a lot of things that have to be cleaned up with Garrett's passing game. And as a quarterback, that's obviously the number one thing you need to take care of. So I think he can be a more dynamic passer in 24. He's got to be a more dynamic passer 24. What made him so damn good was his ability to keep plays alive with his legs, not only just running the ball, but extending the play with his legs and then still throwing it downfield or picking up, 7 or 8 yard gain through the air. Those things are more just the kid playing ball, in my opinion. Now, you can have your own opinion on this, but that's just an athlete being an athlete. There are things that he did that you can look at and just say, you know what, that's just Garrett making plays. But in the passing game, there are still some things that I think Sean definitely had his hand in, and that's the deep ball passes that Garrett made tremendous strides in. What I still think again needs to improve, and we have hammered this on this show, on the post game shows during the season. He has got to get better at these dink and dunk passes. And in some ways, that's a good thing, that his number one issue is the easiest passes. Because if you get the easy ones fixed, you've already got the hard ones figured out. You would think that you can make that jump, make that leap, and all of a sudden become one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. So, what has to happen? I'm not exactly sure. I think it's just an understanding of the situation, trusting your receivers, trusting your offensive line. And I think, again, a lot of it still stems back to just footwork, mechanics, everything. So, going back to Sean for just a second and his decision to leave for Troy, I don't think that this is something that just stewed up in the last handful of days. That's not what I sense. Gerad Parker took the Troy job December, I think 18th or 19th. He was named head coach. So I would have imagined that at some point in time between December 18th, 19th, and January 27th, that the two had conversations. And I highly doubt that it just brewed in the last 4 or 5 days. I think this is something that's kind of been in the background for a little while. I don't know how long. I don't want to put a timestamp on it because I don't have that information. But again, from what I can tell, it wasn't something that surprised Neil Brown. It wasn't something that they panicked about and said, Tyler Allen. This is kind of late in the process, but you're going to be promoted. I don't think that was in the cards at all. I think Neil probably had an understanding that once Gerad took the job at Troy, there was going to be a few guys that were potentially open to reuniting with him down there in Alabama. And he had to have contingency plans for if certain guys left. Probably knowing Neil Brown, he probably had one for everybody. So at least those that had ties to Gerad. So for those that are concerned about this being a rushed quarterback's coaching search and just promoting a kid from within, giving him his first quarterback's position or his first position job at a Power 5 level, I wouldn't be concerned. Neil obviously trusts this guy, Tyler Allen. He did a really good job with Jacksonville State's quarterback Zion Webb a couple years ago, and in some respects had a part in Garrett Greene and in the quarterbacks that played this year. So I don't think it was a rushed decision. And all these folks out there saying, no, you could reach out to Pat White, reach out to Clint Trickett. Those are touchy situations. The reason I say they're touchy is because Pat White, more specifically, is such a legend in this part of the country, right? You bring him in, say it doesn't go well. Say the quarterbacks don't play up to their level. Say Garrett Greene takes a step back, or he's just he's what he was last season, and that's it. He's already maxed out. And moving forward, say whether it's Nico or somebody else takes the job, and it doesn't in 2025, and there's a serious issue at the position. That's a hard thing, I think, for the Mountaineer fans and for Pat White if that were to have happened. And that's not to put Pat's coaching and development in question. It's just a possibility. If you bring Pat in and things don't work, that's a hard reality. That's a harsh reality for both sides. And if he comes in and has success, a lot of success, then one of two things could either happen there. You could either get folks pushing for Pat to become the offensive coordinator job when in reality, maybe he's not ready for it, or bigger things. As crazy as this fan base is, they may be pushing and say, Pat White should be head coach if Neil makes two bad decisions and costs him a game. Those discussions will start with the fan base, whether they're realistic or not. Or he's just going to be back on the market again and go somewhere else, which I think most people would probably be okay with. But there's also, I think, a power struggle that could be in play when you have someone like Pat White, who is a legend at WVU, and Neil Brown, who's calling the plays. He runs the entire offense. There could be a power struggle there. I don't necessarily think there would be, because Neil's pretty good about making sure the right people are in control and the right voices are being heard. So I don't necessarily think it would be an issue. But again, it's something that could be. And these are all things that have to be talked about. And the same thing could be said about Clint Trick, maybe on a lesser scale. But I just don't think that this was a rush search. That's my whole thing about this. It's not a rush search. They feel trusted. They trust in Tyler Allen. They feel like he's ready to step up and be that type of a coach at this level. And for Sean, I mean, dude, you get to go be an offensive coordinator. Why would you not want that job? So I'll go ahead and put a dagger in that narrative now that, West Virginia's losing coaches to Detroit. No. He is getting an opportunity to be an offensive coordinator. What that looks like, I don't necessarily know. Don't know if that means he's calling plays with Gerad Parker being there. Probably not, but still, it's a chance to be somebody that runs the offense on a day-to-day basis, puts together the offensive game plan, and he gets to go back to a place where he spent many, many years coaching. So you can't necessarily blame him for that. But what does this mean for Garrett Greene, Nico Marchiol, Sean Boyle, Khalil Wilkins? What does this mean for these guys with Tyler Allen? I think, honestly, when you have a coaching change like this and you promote a guy that's never had a Power 5 position job, there's a lot of question marks and there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think really that's all we have to go off of is what he's done in the past. And it was that little stint that he had in Jacksonville State. So I don't think it's time to be concerned whatsoever about what Tyler Allen is going to do with this room, because he's going to be taking over a much more talented room than Sean Reagan ever got to work with. Sean Reagan had the same room this past year, but it's going to be a year less experienced, obviously. So I think this is going to be an okay thing. I don't think you need to worry about it. Garrett Greene's going to take this offseason very seriously. He's going to do everything that he can to fix those issues in the passing game and bump those completion percentage numbers up. And maybe this is a secretly very good hidden gem type of hire for West Virginia. Maybe. I don't think it's anything that could cause damage to the room. I don't think it could cause damage to Garrick Green directly. I don't see that being the case whatsoever. So if that crossed your mind over the last 2 days, get rid of that thought. This quarterback room is going to be a-okay. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section here on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, that is, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. Give us a like and give us a follow on X at the same handle. That'll do it for me here today. And we'll be back here with another episode tomorrow.